Hi, today I will be doing my presentation on the truth behind Gandhi. And before I start, I would like to apologize for any mispronunciations I may make. Okay, so to begin, I chose option A. I chose option A because while researching my topic, I wanted to find something meaningful, yet at the same time undermined. I wanted to find something that I knew nothing about and that others would most likely know little about as well. This is why I began to read about Gandhi and his racial issues early on in his life, something I feel everyone who has either heard of or worshipped this icon should be aware of. We will explore his early years and what flaws this idolized symbol has truly had under his kadi. Gandhi's early life. Mahatma Karamchand Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869, at Porbandar, which is the present day Indian state of Gujarat. Both of his parents were very religious. His father was a chief minister, a Dewan, and his mother was a practitioner of Vaishnavism. Gandhi would go on to leave home at just 19 years old to study law in London at the Inner Temple, one of the city's four law colleges. After finishing his studies, he returned to India sometime in 1891. After seeing little success from practicing law in Bombay, he joined an Indian firm that ended up sending him and his family to South Africa, where they stayed for nearly 20 years. This is how South Africa changed Gandhi. Upon arriving in South Africa, Gandhi was appalled by the discrimination he experienced in South Africa as an Indian immigrant. Various occurrences, such as when a European magistrate in Durban asked him to take off his turban, he refused and left the courtroom. Or when, on a train voyage to Pretoria, he was thrown out of a first class railway compartment and beaten up by a white stagecoach driver after refusing to give up his seat for a European passenger. All of these events accumulated over time to where eventually Gandhi began developing and teaching the concept of Sthagara, truth and firmness, or passive resistance, as a way of non cooperation with authorities. Here's a video clip from the movie Gandhi depicting this exact scene.
Tell me, do you think about hell? No, neither do I. But this man here is a Christian, and he's written that in order to believe...
Excuse me, sir. How long have you been in South Africa?
A week.
I don't know how you got your ticket.
Just what are you doing in this car, Coolie?
I have a ticket.
A first-class ticket.
How did you get out of it?
I sent for it in the post. I'm an attorney, and I didn't have time...
There are no colored attorneys in South Africa. Go and sit where you belong.
I'll take your luggage back, sir.
No. Just a moment, please. You see? Mohandas K. Gandhi, attorney at law. I'm on my way to Pretoria to conduct a case for an Indian trading firm.
Didn't you hear me? There are no colored attorneys in South Africa.
Sir, I was called to the bar in London and enrolled at the High Court of Chancery. I am, therefore, an attorney. And since I am, in your eyes, colored, I think we can deduce that there is at least one colored attorney in South Africa.
Smart bloody Caffel. Throw him.
Just move your black ass back to third class, or I'll have you thrown over the next station.
But I always go first class. I've traveled all...
Now, one can see how this would definitely change someone's view of the world. The birth of a movement. Gandhi first began his civil disobedience in 1906 after the Transvaal government passed an ordinance regarding the registration of its Indian population. This would end up lasting for the next 8 years. During its final phase in 1913, hundreds of Indians living in South Africa, including women, went to jail, and thousands of striking Indian miners were imprisoned, flogged, and even shot. Finally, under pressure from the British and Indian governments, the government of South Africa accepted a compromise negotiated by Gandhi and General Jan Christian Smuts, which included important concessions such as the recognition of Indian marriages and the abolition of the existing poll tax for Indians. This was Gandhi's first big win, but he wouldn't stop here. He would go on to lead many other movements in support of India and its people. Although all through peaceful movements of protesting such as fasting, however, some did get him arrested. He was arrested for the first time in 1922 and was tried for sedition. However, this did not stop Gandhi or his followers. After many successful movements and apparent retirements, in January of 1948, Gandhi carried out another fast, this time to bring about peace in the city of Delhi. On January 30th, 12 days after that fast ended, Gandhi was on his way to an evening prayer meeting in Delhi when he was shot to death by Natharam Godse, a Hindu fanatic enraged by Gandhi's efforts to negotiate with Jinnah and other Muslims. The next day, roughly 1 million people followed the procession as Gandhi's body was carried in state through the streets of the city and cremated on the banks of the holy Jamna River. Gandhi is remembered by all of India and the world through various monuments, shrines, and statues out of respect. However, that all may be changing. Last year, a Gandhi statue was removed from a university campus in Ghana. Activists there and in Malawi are using the hashtag Gandhi must fall. They're angry about his early writings in 1903 when Gandhi was first in South Africa. He wrote that white people there should be the predominating race. He also said black people are troublesome, very dirty, and live like animals. Even Gandhi's biographer, Ramachandra Gua, says there's no way around it. Gandhi was a racist early in his life. Gua, at 61, told NPR in an interview in May in his home in India that Gandhi as a young man went through the ideas of his culture and his time. He thought in his 20s that Europeans are the most civilized, Indians were almost as civilized, and Africans were uncivilized. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop at race either. Gandhi is also under scrutiny for gender discrimination. Gandhi championed women in politics, but he was also obsessed with his own celibacy. In his late 70s, before he died at 78, he slept naked with his grandniece when she was in her late teens. He said he wanted to test his willpower to abstain from sex. In 1962, when British filmmaker Richard Attenborough began researching what would become his 1982 Gandhi film, he asked Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, how he should portray his late colleague. Nehru famously replied that Gandhi was a great man, but he had his weaknesses, his moods, and his failings. He begged Attenborough not to turn Gandhi into a saint. He was much too human, Nehru said. Now, I want to point out that the point of this presentation was not to bring down or disgrace Gandhi's name, but to acknowledge that everybody is human and we all have our own prejudices, even Gandhi. There is no denying all of the brave and historic movements Gandhi created and stood for. He brought pride and a sense of nationalism to India that had never been seen before. He fearlessly stood before monumental governments and respectfully said no, all without ever supporting or committing an act of violence, something that is very rare in both his time period and ours today. However, I still feel it is important to realize that he was a flawed man, just like everybody else. A flawed man who learned from his own mistakes and hopefully became better from them. While Gandhi is obviously not here today to defend himself for his younger actions, I feel that Robert's analysis of apologies could really come into play if Gandhi were still here today. Sure, he could have senselessly apologized for his previous statements and could give countless examples on how he doesn't agree with those statements, but it is rectifying these wrongs that matters, and I feel that Gandhi did his best for the latter half of his life. He frequently outspoke against racism and promoted women in the government. Although he was flawed early in his life, which is important to address, I feel there is no reason to defile and destroy his monuments. In conclusion, I ended up learning so much about Gandhi that I never knew. While the majority of it was his downfalls and flaws, I feel it is important to see and perceive every angle of a movement and its leader. In all honesty, I do not think that Gandhi's racist beliefs in his earlier life were his fault. I believe that the idea of nature versus nurture that we discussed in class can be to blame. When Gandhi first arrived in South Africa, he was discriminated against and treated lesser because of the color of his skin. Naturally, being a frustrated young man, this is what society told him was okay, thus leading him to form his own prejudices. While he learned from his mistakes and certainly atoned for them, the important part is to realize that even the best of us have our flaws and make mistakes. It is how we respond, rectify, and atone for them that matters. Thank you.